everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome to another chat. Today we're going to talk about ego versus your highest self and how to know which one you're living by in each moment. So tell us a little bit, Law.
Yeah, so the ego is like the lower vibration of you, and your highest self is just the higher vibration of you. Each one lies within. So your higher self is already here. It's just kind of like shadowed or covered up or hidden by all these layers of the ego. And what is the ego? Because we often just think the ego is someone who has, I don't even know how to describe it, other than someone's got a big ego, like
I picture you think somebody at the gym, like a bodybuilder guy. That's what I pictured. Like, I look awesome today.
Yeah, like someone who thinks they're awesome.
Yep, that's what I always thought like ego was. I was like, I don't have an ego.
Yeah.
Little do I know, my ego is quite strong. My ego's been going off left and right this past week, and it can be hard when you're like in it, right? We'll teach you some strategies of how to identify your ego and how to kind of separate yourself from it to know it's not you. But it's like kind of just when you go down to like living in fear mode, but big ego is somebody who thinks they're freaking awesome, right? And also somebody who lives in a lot of fear and low confidence and lack. So like, if you're not confident in yourself or like playing like the poor small me, like that's your ego ruling that too. So that's gonna take me a while to learn, and I'm like, oh shit, like, and I have a lot of ego triggers. More so than her.
But the thing is, we all have an ego, so it's not just like the buff person at the gym, because clearly that's the only example we ever thought. That's the only person we ever thought who had an ego,
right?
Clearly,
right.
But everybody has it. It's a part of your identity, which is fine. It's in our mission here, our goal here in this life, in this school of earth, is to transcend the ego.
And but your ego does have a purpose too, right? Like in past like lifetimes and everything where you needed safety and protection from like killing things outside that would just like kill you, or hunting your own food. It's like that's where the ego kind of came in for that purpose, is to keep us. Its purpose is to keep you safe. And often it does that through kind of fear and scaring you of, those limiting, like an ego thought would be like, oh, I'm going to, I have no money, I'm going to run out of money. Or I'm ugly and no one will ever love me. Like that is an ego thought. And those keep us kind of safe in patterns, or, not even safe, but just trapped in patterns out of fear of like making changes. Because your ego wants you to stay where you are.
Exactly. And it's also like the victimhood mentality of like, oh, no one's here to support me, no one's helping me, why is it always me? That is also your ego. It's any aspect of those type of thoughts that isn't rooted in acceptance and love, basically. That's your ego. So when you're thinking like that, it's what you're comfortable with. It's how you grew up your entire life. So your brain is comfortable there. Like your ego is comfortable there. It doesn't want you to grow. It doesn't want you to evolve, because it is safe in the known. And when you do anything to start stepping into the unknown, that's where it's like haywire, like this isn't safe, this isn't normal, like, and you could just be meditating. It's never done that before, and your thoughts are going, what is this? I can't still my mind, over and over again.
Just saying I can't meditate, that's an ego thought. Just, anything we say like that, or anything we say like we can't do, right, is usually just the ego telling us that, oh, I've never done that before, like that's different, I can't do that.
It's the stories, right? It's the stories behind every aspect of your life.
So I tell a lot of my clients, like, just different things that I've learned, or how do you identify it, is that you kind of slow down and just listen to those fear-based thoughts run over and over again, and you'll find that they're probably the same few thoughts. And then I personally give my ego a name. Mine's Barbara. Does yours have a name?
No.
Hers isn't like that. Hers doesn't even need a name.
I'm a big observer. So like I sit and I just observe I contemplate. I contemplate a lot, which is like a kind of an aspect of meditation. So that's my active ego work, is like contemplation. Like, why do I think this way? Why is it doing this? Like I just sit and kind of contemplate.
No, I like that.
Yeah, and it transcends it for me.
I do that in a little bit different of a way. So I go all out, and my person, has a name, and I imagine her name's Barbara. She comes to my door, And sometimes she's really big and mean. Other times she can be smaller and kind of kinder. But it depends on all the thoughts. But, just the running thing of like, you're not going to have enough clients. People are going to stop coming to you. Or like, you're just, you'll never make enough money. Or you'll be single forever. Or all these like stupid thoughts that I tend to have. And if I ignore them, sometimes they can get bigger and bigger. But the thing is to just realize that if you can separate them outside of yourself and observe them, like those thoughts aren't you. And so you can start to kind of face them, or I'll try to sometimes like kick Barbara down the stairs. Other times I try to give her a hug, but I know that like all she really wants is love, and like I try to give her a new role because she wants a role in my life to like protect me. But I'm like, this form of protection like ain't working anymore, Barbara. We got to work together as a team. So I'm working on that with her, and depending on sometimes I think I have my ego like.
Sorry for the Barbaras out there.
Yeah, pick Barbara. I just picked Barbara, but like that could be something Pick a name that resonates with you. But I would say that, where was I going with that?
That's your ego work.
Yeah. And so sometimes I think that I got it good. I'm like, we're good. I'm like, I got this figured out. And then a trigger will come up and I'm sent through the roof. This past week has not been a great week. My wrist is breaking out in shambles over here. I called Lauren the other night, not making any sense at all.
No sense.
But if you're going through ego, I guess we're making this video right now too, because there's a lot of triggers going on in the world, and like the energy is crazy, like ever since the solstice this year. And I know the past few years the energy's been nuts anyways. But if you're sensitive to energy and you're feeling a lot of ego triggers, you aren't alone in that. Yeah, it means a lot of change is coming. So it's just learning to observe it and not attach to it. And then knowing like, okay, so you observed it, it's not you, but like what else remains without those thoughts, right? It's like, usually it's your higher self, which we'll get into, of all the love, you can do this, like you're amazing, like.
Yeah, and it's just like, your ego is basically any of your triggers, any of your limiting beliefs, any of your limiting patterns, basically like the structure of how you grew up and like all the belief systems you have, that's your ego, because it's not really yours, right? Like it's someone else's that taught you something or told you something or made you believe something. So when you take away all the things that aren't yours, who are you? And underneath that is the higher self. So it's like this idea of ego comes in when we come into this earth and we think that we're separate, that everybody's separate. And because of that separateness, it creates a feeling of separation, attachment. It creates a feeling of control and a feeling of lack, rather than the higher self, which we'll get into, of knowing that everybody's one and oneness is true, nature's principle. So when we're working with the ego, what I like to do as well is because your triggers are your ego, you feel into it. So you do the shadow work exercises, you journal, you sit with the emotions, and you allow yourself to feel and process everything that is. Because once you process it, I'm getting better at feeling, but I like to understand. I'm a big like awareness, knowledge person. That's how I like first understand my triggers, and then I'll take the time to like try to feel it, because again, I'm still working on feeling things, but coupling those two things together will help transcend that aspect of your ego or that limiting belief that you have. So whether it's like a meditation or a journaling that you're doing this work with, and we have stuff online that goes into all of this, that's how you kind of befriend that aspect of yourself. And then you shed layer by layer of layer, and your higher self starts to emerge out.
And your higher self is always going to encourage you. It's always going to be like from a loving voice. And sometimes when your ego is something that can be like loud and mean, and but your higher self is sometimes more of like a soft whisper. That's like, oh, like this is where, this is going to help you, or, I love you, or little things like that, like soft whisper. If you listen to it more and more, it's going to get louder and louder. And I even try to, like, I'm much more of a visual person than Lauren, of like sometimes like the logical thinking of things can just send me into thinking mode even more. Whereas like I'm really trying to work on feeling versus thinking. And so I try to, like in meditations, whatever, like I vision what my highest self looks like and what my highest self does and how she acts and and so I try to embody those characteristics in myself of like my highest self is very grounded and calm and fun and funny and just like very like feminine and just like flows. And I know when my ego kicks in, I'm rigid, I'm anxious, I'm freaking out about stupid shit. Like, that is not my highest self quality. So I try to like come back to already who I know that I am. And then in meditations, I imagine that version of myself like merging with me, even though I know it's already me, but like just kind of come in and all being one.
Yeah, and it's like, so your higher self is this aspect of yourself. It's this state of consciousness that just embodies acceptance of everything that you are, all of your perceived flaws, because everything's perception, all of your perceived fears and doubts, all of your perceived limits. And it also is acceptance of everything around you, because your higher self is rooted with the connection of whatever you believe in it, whether it's the universe or God. Your higher power of your choice is your higher self, because it comes under the nature's law of oneness. Because when you strip all the layers apart, when you leave this earth and you go into higher dimensions or wherever you're going to go, you come to the realization that we are all one. I am you, I am her, she is me, I am the tree. Like,
right?
And it's taken me a long time to understand that concept, and I'm really starting to grasp it now, because I'd be like, I know we're one, but like, how are we one? And it's really realistically of when we leave this suit, this bodysuit, our consciousness, our awareness, our energy still is there, and then it goes back up to wherever it goes, and it can have the potential to merge all together. And we're all just from source as different expressions of source, or the higher power or God, or whatever you believe in. Again, like I said, every single thing is just a different expression of the same thing. So when we're being led by our higher power, we're just being led by ourselves.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, does that make sense?
One. Yeah, so like, you get caught up in any of the day-to-day issues and things like that. It's like, that's where the ego comes in, right? Of thinking we're separate or different, or you need to choose sides, or like one is better than the other, and like that's a whole nother video we could make. Yeah. But it's like, it's all distractions to take you away and make you live in fear, right? There's so much fear around us, but how do you come back to the self, to oneness, and to knowing that, like, you know, we already know all the answers within. It's just like letting all that layers and shit and distractions kind of go, and how do you find that inner peace within the chaos?
Exactly. And that our higher self's purpose is just to make us aware of the ego, of the triggers, of the limiting beliefs, of the lack, of the control, of the attachment. And our goal or our purpose here is to just keep, I don't know, I just envision, like, whenever I envision this, it's like myself, and then like it peels off, and then another layer comes above, and then that peels off, and it gets higher and higher, because you're just shedding a belief pattern, shedding a lack mindset, shedding a control or a fear mindset each time you get triggered or upset or angry or sad. They're all good points, and they're all catalysts for you to work through.
Catalyst for change.
Yeah, and observe.
Because the ego gets loud and, you know, can make us uncomfortable, but it shows that is change coming. Usually my ego freaks out when like big changes are going to come, and I know it's a good thing and I always get through them, but it's just like, it wants to keep me where I am. It gets very loud, and it's like, this is where you're comfortable, this is where you're going to stay, and I have to be like, no.
Because that's what it's saying. It's like, this is what I know. This is what I know to be safe. And the unknown is way scarier than what I know. So I'm going to bring every thought, every negative thinking pattern, or every like, I can't do that, that person's weird, or like that situation's not ever going to work out for me, or this, that, and the third, to keep you exactly where you are.
Yeah. So like, if you're planning on making a job change, right, you'll probably find fears and anxieties and triggers come up much more during those times, or like changes in relationships, or moving, or, you know, changing up your workout routine. Fear can come in as well, like, oh, how am I going to look? Like, all these things, like, that is all your ego presenting to you what you need to up level.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good stuff. stuff when you can just be aware of like and take a step back to just observe, and however you want to do that, like whether you think more like Lauren does or kind of envision things more like me. I'm always creating stories in my head of like just pictures, and it helps me process things more. But yeah, do you have any like other additional tips for people to keep like identifying the ego and how to work with it more?
Honestly, anytime you get triggered, and what we mean by triggered is like upset, angry, sad, anxiety, fear, any of like unwanted emotion, sit with it, feel it. If you want to contemplate it a little bit, be like, why is this coming up? And then just maybe bringing some awareness around how many times it comes up, because if you don't deal with that trigger, the universe is going to keep sending it back to you. Same situation's going to happen over and over again until you wake up and be like, oh, this isn't them. This isn't Sally or Bob who's a dick. Like, this is me. And do the shadow work, do the journaling, do the meditation. Honestly, that's what you do. That's what
for journaling too. You could write down the comment. It'll probably be about like 5 to 10 repeating factors of your ego in your head over and over again. So you could start to track those and write them down, and then on the other side of the paper, write what you can shift your mindset to for more of a positive, or how would your higher self think when you hear those things of like, okay, like your ego is like, your saving account sucks, like you're not going to be able to pay rent this month, right? Your higher self will be like, no, you are going to attract all the abundance into your life that you need and have the ability to make as much money, if not more than you think, right? Yeah. So that would be kind of a shifting thought of when you hear that, just like an example, but anything you hear, it's about rewiring the patterns of your brain.
Exactly. And like we were saying before, if like the separation kind of stems into, if you're having trouble identifying it, like if your lack responds with sadness, control responds with fear, and attachment responds with anger. So if that helps you break down or feel into something or get more clarity behind something, use that little framework.
But yeah, I think that's good. What do you think?
That's good for now. Take it with grace and ease.
Yes, you're gonna conquer your egos, guys, or befriend them, or maybe just really start to love all parts of ourselves.
All right, see you next time.
All right, do something today that makes you your highest self. That's my last tip.
So anything that's fun.
Yeah, makes you feel good. All right, bye guys.